Hi everyone, my name's King Newsme. This will be the last video for the summer specials on my channel. I know it's very sad, but maybe next year we can do something similar. The last episodes I want to talk about is the two-part Goosebumps episode known as Deep Trouble. Deep Trouble is the final two episodes of the fourth and final season of Goosebumps. Very sad. And despite it being called Deep Trouble, it's actually based on the second book, Deep Trouble 2. Believe it or not. And this really pisses me off because I wanted to start being a better YouTuber. I was like, I'm gonna start reading the Goosebumps books before I make the video, and this one put a wrench in that. So of course I busted out the Deep Trouble book with the cool ass hammerhead shark on it, and I was reading through the thing and I was like, this is nothing like the episode. In this book I'm reading about mermaids and like man-eating sharks and stuff, and spoiler alert, this episode does not have that. Turns out it's based on this book with the ugly ass fish on the cover. Why would they do that? They named the first Slappy episode Night of the Living Dummy 2. Why couldn't you name this one Deep Trouble 2? But sadly I ran out of time to order the book and read it, so I guess I'll start reading it with the next Goosebumps episode. And with this being the last episode of the whole series, they do reuse quite a few props, so I will be pointing those out as they show up within the episodes. So let's quit yapping and get into it. We start the episode on a beautiful beach where one of our main characters, Sheena, is chilling on an inflatable raft trying to catch some fish. All is good until looks like she's not alone in the water. Sheena is too distracted by fishing that she doesn't notice the comically large shark fin coming right at her. That is until it's very close. In a panic, Sheena tries to quickly paddle away from the shark as fast as she can until it's revealed that it's actually her brother, Billy, with a toy. Obviously, she doesn't know this until she paddles all the way to shore, where her brother Billy picks on her.
I should have seen your face. Help, shark, somebody please.
Haha, you thought you were in real danger and had a human emotion, idiot. You might actually recognize Sheena's actor, Laura Vandervoort, from a popular Goosebumps episode known as The Haunted House Game. Or you saw her in an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark known as The Tale of the Laser Maze. She's also in a goofy little Disney movie called My Mom Got a Date with a Vampire. And fun fact, I was actually going to make a video on that movie last Halloween, but you hooligans couldn't get enough of the haunting hour. You might also recognize Billy's actor, Todd Fennell, from two different episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark. One of them is The Tale of the Forever Game, and the other is The Tale of the Silver Sight. We found out that the kids are staying with their Uncle Harold, who's a scientist, on a remote island in the middle of the ocean, and they're pretty bored. Just then, Billy finds an incredibly large shark tooth. Even megalodon teeth aren't that big, Jesus Christ. So the kids quickly take it to their scientist uncle, while something watches them from the bushes. They make it inside to find that nobody's home, and there's a strange green goo on the floor. Billy, being the genius that he is, sticks his hand in it and smells it. What if it was like puke or something, bro? What have you done then? Billy notices that there's a trail of goo leading outside the door and decides he's gonna go investigate. But Sheena doesn't have a good feeling about it and tries to stop him. But Billy is so bored of just sitting around all day, so he grabs a broom for protection and decides to investigate the yard. And by investigate, I mean he pokes a few palm trees and then heads back inside. Hey, he does more investigating than the police, am I right? The kids figure that their uncle is probably down in his lab because he's nowhere else in the house. The only issue with that is they're not allowed to go down there. I mean, why would you want to go down there? It looks creepy as hell. And much to Sheena's disapproval, they go down there anyways. And it's just a normal looking lab with fish and beakers of mysterious liquids and a cute little lizard. Billy picks up one of the beakers and finds that it has the same smell as the green goo that was upstairs. And he wants to take a look at it from underneath a microscope. But of course, Sheena doesn't think that's a good idea. So they literally play tug of war with the green goo until it lands in one of the fish tanks that has a pretty funky looking fish in it. Just then, their uncle comes home and comes down into the lab. And as the kids go run and hide, they overhear that one of their uncle's lab assistants have been missing for about a week. His other assistant, Ritter, thinks that the guy left on purpose to go have his own personal vacation. But Dr. D doesn't think that he's that kind of guy and says that they probably should go tell the authorities. But Ritter seems to think that if they call the authorities, then their science experiment will get shut down. They must be doing something pretty bad if they just get shut down like that. But this is when we learn that they're calling the green goo D13. And Dr. Harold seems to think that it was a mistake that he created it. Luckily, the kids didn't get caught while hiding down there, but maybe they heard a little bit too much information. We also get a glimpse of Luis, the missing lab assistant. Just then, the fish tank that they accidentally poured the D13 into breaks, and the fish has gotten a lot bigger. Wait, I've seen this somewhere. Yeah, I think I know where I've seen this from because it looks just like your mom. Got him. The weird fish starts shooting spear-like quills from outside of its back, kind of like a porcupine. Trust me, I tried looking up a fish that shot quills like this out of its back, but I couldn't find any fish that even somewhat resembled this ugly little guy. So it must be a Dr. D original. Now that the fish has destroyed half the lab, the kids decide it's time to make an escape. escape. But it's not that easy. The fish continues to target the kids and shoot spikes directly at them. Luckily, they find refuge in a closet. Oh my god, that was close. And after a second of just chilling out in the closet, they notice that the noises outside stopped. And they were about to walk out, but something starts pulling on the door. And it's way too strong. The kids weren't able to keep it closed. Oh, it's Dr. D. And he doesn't look too happy with them. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Uncle Howard is played by Paul Miller. No, not the incredibly racist Omegle dude. But he was also in an episode of Goosebumps called The Barking Ghost, which is one of the more wacky episodes in my opinion, but I still love it. The kids get into some pretty serious trouble for going into the lab, and even worse, messing with the experiments. But to try to make things better, Billy shows Dr. D the incredibly large shark tooth. But it kind of backfires on him a little bit.
I want you two to stay away from the beach.
What?
Now the kids aren't allowed to do the only other thing that they could, which makes them both pretty upset. But Ritter stops them and tells them how stressed their uncle is right now and that maybe they should just kind of stay out of the way for the next couple of days until he chills out. Sometime later, the kids are chilling outside playing goldfish when the maid Janet busts out the back door and accuses them of eating her chocolate cake. But they didn't even know there was a cake. Obviously, she doesn't believe them and tells them,
Stay out of my kitchen.
Billy is tired of people telling him what to do, so to blow off some steam, he's gonna go swim in the water, disobeying his uncle's orders. But on the way, he spots a piece of the cake on the ground. It looks like he interrupted somebody's afternoon snack, and it's not too happy about it. Billy hears strange noises coming from the woods all around him, and he doesn't know what else to do but to run and hide. He takes refuge on the beach as someone sneaks up behind him. Somehow, a strange man has washed up on their beach. They take the poor guy inside and determine that he's still in shock. All he can say is,
Lady Milton, the island, the water.
Dr. D decides he needs to go find this Lady Milton, and he was gonna go do it alone until Dr. Ritter convinces him that he needs to bring everybody else, just in case he needs help. So he reluctantly agrees to let everybody come, then tells Janet to call him an ambulance. Thought they were on an island. Do they have like Spy Kids car ambulances? That'd be kind of sick. Anyways, Janet tries to call for help, but is only met with static on the phone.
That's strange. The lion's down again.
The group take a boat to a nearby island and start looking for this Lady Milton. That's when Ritter decides to leave them behind. He thinks that Dr. D is starting to give up on the experiment, and Ritter does not want that to happen. So he's just gonna leave them on the island to die instead. Wow, that's fucked up. And he literally laughs maniacally as he's driving away. This dude is just evil. He's just straight evil. Now the family is stuck, and they're not alone either. And that's where part 1 ends. Honestly, it's a really slow episode, and if it was just like a single episode and that's how it ended, I'd be super disappointed. Sure, there's a lot of setting up for part 2 in this episode, but nothing really happens besides big fish and cake. It also was kind of obvious that Ritter was gonna do something to betray Dr. D. I didn't go too deep into their conversations, but every time they talked, they pretty much just butted heads the whole time. So I personally saw him betraying him from a mile away. But luckily, things really pick up in the second episode, so stick around. Finally, Dr. D tells the kids what exactly was going on in their lab. They were working on a new form of plankton called D13. It would turn carbon dioxide into oxygen at 4 times the rate. Good lord. But it had a certain growth hormone in it that made the fish that ate the plankton huge.
Like that blowfish?
That was a blowfish? That looks nothing like a blowfish. Blowfish are like little cute guys. That guy's ugly, look at him. Also, I don't remember blowfish shooting spikes out of their back. I think I would remember that. Anyways, D13 somehow got leaked into the ocean, and fish and the other animals have been eating on it for quite a while. Dr. D wanted to stop the experiment because it's harming the local wildlife, but Ritter is greedy and wants to sell it. Dr. D says that D13 could possibly end world hunger within 10 years, but they don't know what side effects it has on humans, so it's very dangerous. As they're talking, Billy finds a boat called the Lady Milton. So the guy wasn't talking about a person, he was talking about his boat. And it looks like one of the giant sea creatures sank the boat. They start looking for an inflatable raft that they could possibly use to get back to their island. And as they look, Billy catches a glimpse of something running in the woods. And being the kid that he is, he starts chasing the mysterious figure. And once he gets super deep in the woods, he once again starts hearing all the noises around him. And as that is happening, Sheena finds a canoe. But the strange thing about this canoe is it looks like somebody put it there recently. So someone's on the island with them. Well, no shit, Billy's probably about to meet them. As Billy explores, he notices some D13 on some of the leaves in the woods. And Sheena finds some D13 on the paddles on the canoe. And this is when they finally realize Billy is missing, but it might be a little too late for him. Wait a minute, is that a hand of a horror? from One Day at Horrorland? Yep, that's what it is. That sure is. Dr. D and Sheena start looking around for Billy, but they don't find him. Sheena only finds his watch on the ground. Then she starts to hear all the noises that Billy was hearing around her. But luckily, Dr. D saves her before anything bad can happen. Dr. D thinks that D13 has reached the island and they're possibly in a lot of danger. That's a good way to confirm it. Obviously, they run away from the New Age dinosaur, but then they run into another one. Honestly, the crab's kind of cute. They take refuge in the woods where they find an old shack to hide in. And as the lizard gets closer and closer, the whole shack just starts to shake and rumble. Until... luckily, the lizard is pretty dumb and doesn't know that they're in the shack. The two try to think of a way to try and find Billy, but as they are talking, a monster takes Dr. D to hell with them, leaving Sheena behind. But she's scared of being alone, so she jumps down there with him. It's a pretty dumb decision if you ask me. Looks like whoever's been hunting them down has built a series of tunnels underneath the island and lets massive creatures just hang out down there. Sheena sees that the monsters have tied up their uncle and put a bag over his head. And that's when Billy finds her. Billy grabs her and they quickly try to find a way out, but they get stopped by... Easter egg! This is actually one of the ant props from the episode Awesome Ants, believe it or not. Imagine an episode about giant ants, and there's a giant ant in this one. Could you imagine that they use the same prop? Probably costs a lot of money to make a whole new one. The ant has the kids pinned in a corner, and strangely, one of the monsters helps protect them. Not only that, but it knows them. Turns out the cloaked man is actually Luis, the missing lab assistant. And he hasn't tried to make it back to the island because... he looks pretty heinous. Luis said that Ritter would pay him an extra $100 a week if Luis would take D13 secretly. And Ritter promised him that it would only make him stronger, but obviously that didn't happen. He also didn't bring the family down there. It was the other fish people, and there's very little hope for their uncle. The other fish people want revenge for what Dr. D has done to them. Since Dr. D invented D13, the fish people hold him responsible for what happened to them. Sheena doesn't want to see anything bad happen to their uncle, so Sheena talks Luis into taking them to the other fish people. And when the kids finally make it to the fish people, they're tying Dr. D to a post. And we finally get to see what they look like.
Justice.
Another Easter egg, you probably noticed this guy from A Shocker at Shock Street. It's like one of the final scenes of the whole thing. He's like one of the scariest monsters. I don't recognize any of the other masks, so let me know if you do in the comments below. God, this one's really ugly. I don't even know what this one's supposed to be. The fish people send a massive tarantula to eat Dr. D as he begs for his life. He tells them that he tried to make D13 to help people, not to harm them. And he never knew that Ritter was experimenting on humans. But they don't believe him because Ritter told them that he wanted them to be experimented on.
It's too late. We will decide your fate, but your invention has determined ours.
But before anything bad could happen to him, Sheena steps in to save the day. She explains to them that if Dr. D knew what was going on here, why would he even come to the island? She tells them that Ritter brought the family here so that he could have D13 all to himself, so that he could get rich at the expense of the human race. And this is enough to convince the fish people that Ritter's the bad guy. Back at the island, we see that Ritter is packing up all the experiments to leave when he spots some D13 on the steps to the house. And he instantly knows he's fucked.
No! Stay away!
He tries his best to use a boat to escape, but...
Hello, Dr. Ritter. Going somewhere?
it might be too late. We cut a little bit into the future and we see that Luis is back to normal. Dr. D is literally so smart that he just whipped up an antidote just like that. And they're going to dump it into the ocean in hopes that it would revert all the damage that Ritter has done. I mean, it worked on Luis, why wouldn't it work on the fish?
I haven't got a fin or scale on me, but I've kind of lost my taste for seafood though.
Oh god, this episode was doing so good without the cringe jokes. Dr. D promises the kids that the rest of the summer is going to be normal summer fun. But they're a little curious about what's going on with Ritter. Apparently he's been missing ever since the fish people got to him. This is when we cut to a sideshow circus, showing off one of the fishmen, and oddly enough, it's being run by the maid Janet. Inside, there's a huge fish tank with one of the fish people in it, and that fish person is Ritter himself. Ah, the karma. And that's the end of the episodes. I told you, things really pick up in the second episode. And I do want to mention that the guy that played Luis is Jason McSkimming, and you might have seen him in an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark called The Tale of the Last Dance. I just love how much those two shows like intertwined fucking actors and actresses. It's kind of funny to me. I personally think it's an okay episode. Definitely not the best Goosebumps has to offer, but not the worst. It is interesting and it does have a good story to it, even if it does have some wackier moments in it. Like this scene with the big lizard. It's so obviously filmed in front of a green screen. It's hilarious. And in the end, they didn't paint the eyes around the dude with the sharp teeth, so it looks like a mask. But I do like Dr. D's character arc. At the beginning of the episode, he's kind of very strict and kind of mean to the kids. He limits the kids' fun so much that at one point, Billy just straight disobeys him and goes to swim, just because of how strict he's being. In the end, he actually turned into just a nice guy that wanted to help the world out, and pretty chill in the end. And like I said, this is sadly the last episodes of Goosebumps, but it was pretty cool seeing how they reused some props to match the episode vibes. But it's kind of a disappointing last episode. I think if they stopped the show with Cry of the Cat, I probably would be a little bit happier with the ending. But let me know what you think of this episode in the comments below. Like I said earlier, I didn't read the correct book because I'm stupid. I didn't have time to order it and then it get here in time, so I'm sorry, but I promise I'll start doing that from now on. But there are a few differences on the wiki that I can read about, and I want to mention just a few of the crazier ones. Apparently in the book, D13 was supposed to make the fish bigger. That was their goal. But in the episode, it was just kind of like a side effect to what they were doing. Also in the book, the D13 turned the humans into fish, into literal fish, not these mutant fish people that we see in the episode. And also, unlike what I've been doing this whole video, nobody called Dr. Harold Dr. D. That was a book only thing, and I kind of picked it up from reading the first one. I have a Patreon. The $5 members get episodes a day early, plus some bonus content, and maybe some pictures of my cats. Also your name right here. Whoa. Like the video if you liked the video. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate you all, and peace.